Philadelphia. Well, hello. I have been, for the last 6 or 7 days, been Pepe Silvia. I've literally been one van drive away to the gas station from putting in about 1 billion cigarettes in my mouth and just stirring around in my office here and just trying to figure out where the mail is being delivered. And that is what we're going to figure out today, people, all right? I hope you've got tea, coffee, and a tinfoil hat, maybe a firecracker up your ass, because I am sick and tired of the slowness to the draft. So let's just get our brains warmed up today. Can we do that? I don't know how long this is going to go, but I got a lot of information for you, and let's start right here. I am sure you have seen and maybe heard Daniel Jeremiah's theory, working theory, that the Eagles are basically building this team and this structure and approaching this offseason like an NBA team. And if you haven't heard that, you're in the right place. I love this podcast, 40s and Free Agents, with him and Greg Rosenthal. Here is that theory.
Talking to somebody in the league, a coach, about this the other day, I said, the Eagles are fascinating because it almost feels like they're taking an NBA approach, which is they're paying their stars, right? And you look at the exodus of players. They had some good players, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, like good players that walked out of the
cut Darius Slay, Gardner Johnson they traded.
But what they've done is they've said, okay, we've got our piles of money. We're going to put it into the stars. And then the rest, we have a really good scouting staff. We're going to scout our butts off. With all these guys leaving, we're playing the comp pick game. So they're going to have 1 million picks this year and next year based off what's happened, over the last couple of years. So they're going to then try and surround those stars with a bunch of cheap, young, talented players. And they hit in the draft. It's like, I think the Rams are the other team they won the Super Bowl with that NBA approach. And now, you've seen them hit on all these young players. The Eagles have hit on young players. It's an interesting formula.
Filling the gaps with some really low-cost free agents. A.J. Dillon as a backup running back. These are just shots, but there's almost no risk. You bring in Josh Uche, Adoree Jackson, who I've always thought is an underrated player, but now he's at the point where he's a distressed asset, and you could see him stepping in kind of like they did with Isaiah Rodgers, who got a nice deal elsewhere in free agency, and they just plug him into their system, and I'm convinced.
I was talking to a coach about, certain teams and organizations, the Eagles being one of them. And this was the great point that he brought up, is if you're going to go on one of these 1-year prove it deals, he was like, do you want to go to a 1:00 Sunday team? He's like, and he was, and I don't want to I won't throw the team he mentioned under the bus, but it's like he mentioned one of those NFC South teams. And he was like, you want to go there, play at 1:00 every Sunday, or you can go to a team like the Eagles, be on the national stage. You're in the 4:00 window. If you're not in the 4:00 window, you're playing Sunday night, Monday night, big stages, big games. Everybody's watching. Everybody's paying attention. Your 7 sacks you get with the Philadelphia Eagles are going to end up being more valuable than the 7 sacks you might get in the NFC South, is what he was mentioning. And I don't know if a lot of people think like that. But I'm telling you, that message is being sent to players and to try and entice them on these, short-term deals.
So when I kind of take a look back and go, yeah, that makes sense. All their signings so far, that makes sense. And this kind of Eagles debate amongst us all is like, are they broke, or are they waiting to do a move, or is this DJ kind of doing some PR here? And probably a little PR, but I don't think that line about basically choosing between, do you want to go play for the Panthers or do you want to be on a Super Bowl team for a year? That is totally relevant. If you get 8 sacks here, you're going to get paid. Look at Milton Williams. I know he's homegrown, but like all of these 1-year dice rolls, essentially, and this was all before the Aziz signing. If all of these guys or one of these guys ends up working out, boom, you've got like a Zach Bond situation where you just end up paying them a shitload and kind of like, whew, thank God, because Bryce Huff stinks and I don't know if we can get rid of him yet. And we'll talk a little more about that later on. And like, I think that there are major opportunities to take that style in free agency and just do a lot of trades. There's so many different opportunities amongst the league. And a lot of them happen to be in the AFC, which I'm happy to report as well. But if you and I were to look at the Eagles depth chart right now, I don't think there's anything else that we would be screaming about, maybe other than safety, you nerds, that this team needs to find a pass rusher somewhere. I don't care if it's from D tackle, D end, outside linebacker, somebody like that, right? That's where my mind is. And I'm going to get into the offensive line and probably like the DBs a little later on. But I was going crazy. One, because NFL.com does not have just like a total amount of transactions for each team yet. And I got to thank Tennessee Eagle so much, because that man just decided to add them all up together and send them back to me in the Discord, which is down below there. It's crazy, but we learn a lot, and we talk about a lot of rumors that I get texted. So hit me up there. But I did that because I have a working theory, and you tell me if I sound crazy. I feel like the best opportunities to trade with the teams, one, in the AFC for sure, but two, and probably most importantly, I want to see how many signings a team has actually done, because that should tell you a lot. Who is going to move a lot in the draft or who is going to rely on the draft. So I am ranking. I've got 11 teams for us. 11. That's right. I went through every depth chart, every roster, the cap, the amount of picks that they have, to give you some theories to get our brains working, because I think there's only 11 trade partners, and you tell me if it should be fewer or if it should be more. I've got them 1 to 11. I'm going to start. Yeah, let's do some anticipation. I'll roll through the non-likely ones faster because they're here, but I just want to be on the record. Number 11, this won't happen at the draft because this is a post-June 1st trade. I want you to keep your eye on Tyree Wilson, all right? He is stuck. Crosby got signed to a long-term deal. They have so many different pass rushers on that team, kind of the same way that the Eagles are building theirs with taking a bunch of shots, and it's crazy. He's a defensive end that should be an outside linebacker. He'd be outstanding with Vic Fangio, and he's very tradable, in my opinion. His contract's cheap. Keep an eye on that. The Tennessee Titans, I thought of Jeffrey Simmons right away. Same reason, okay? Same reason you're thinking too. And I reached out to Teron Davenport and said, hey, what's the how's the relationship over there? It's been good, it's been bad, but if the Titans were ever to do business with the Eagles, they are not going to trade another cornerstone to embarrass themselves, just like A.J. Brown. I go, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. So we can cross the Titans off if you've thought of that. Now let's get a little serious as we head to number 9. I have looked at the Packers, and I don't think they're going to do business together. You believe that, and I believe that. One, they're trying to ban the tush push. Fuck you guys. You fucking bratwurst. I can't say that. The brats are awesome. But it's bullshit, all right? Don't expect me to like the Packers fan base much longer, especially after that blogger and all that mess after the playoffs. They're starting to get on my nerves. But let's not be shy about maybe having or adding Jair Alexander if they really don't want him. Picks, not players. I could see that happening because the Packers only have 5 signings, the least amount of signings in this group, and yet they are at number 9. Number 8, I got my eye on you, Indianapolis. That's right, with only 7 signings. Quiddy Pay, obvious candidate because they were talking about DG. I don't know if that's going to happen. Their depth chart suggests otherwise as well. I'm just not sure anyone else fits, and the Colts have been awfully quiet as well. So I think they're going to be making some moves during the draft. Here's another Dallas Goedert guess for you at number 7 with the Los Angeles Rams with just 10 signings as well. That's kind of like my barometer. If you have about 10, that I'm going to keep you as a maybe. Anything above that is a case-by-case basis, and there is another team with more signings on here that's ranked higher. I just look at Tyler Higbee. I look at the way that they're treating Matt Stafford from like a year-to-year basis, and I'm just going, all right, no way. That's not good enough to go on a run, and you've lost your best slant wide receiver, or maybe you were so mad that he couldn't cut into that slant in the fucking snow. They're like, I'm done with him. Sean McVay, I'm done with that son of a bitch. I could see that. I could see him being a total psycho behind the scenes, even though he's got this nice guy, sister wives, kind of thing to him. But, maybe the Eagles get picks. In that case, I think they might entertain that. I think Dallas would entertain that. I'm just not sure that they're trading to an NFC team again, probably to another playoff opponent of theirs as well. Coming in at number 6, I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. So, the Browns have been kind of interesting because they only got a quarter of my theory correctly. I felt as though there was going to be a discussion about Myles Garrett, and for sure, if that were to happen, the Browns would want one of the Eagles quarterbacks. They end up choosing Kenny Pickett. Is there more business to be done here? They are in hell. Right, we know that. Deshaun Watson, all that. I think the working theory is that they're going to take a quarterback. They're going to take one of the two of them, and I don't buy that. I just don't, because, you still need a year of kind of bridging the gap, and I still think the Browns owners, not the general managers, despite all of this shit going on, I mean, Deshaun Watson isn't seen or heard now, probably for an entire year if you shut him down. You still acquire more picks. You take some gambles the same way we're taking gambles here on edge rushers with quarterbacks in any which way you can. Do they also want, out of curiosity, they would have done it by now, do they also want Tanner McKee? And if it's not the Browns, sidestep that for a second. If it's not the Browns, somebody wants Tanner McKee. I'm still not sure that the Eagles want to hold on to that, okay? Just put that in the back of your mind for a second. I think the Browns want to entertain offers. I have no idea what it would take to get from 32 to 2, but I also know that there is no way, just like we've been talking about for a billion weeks now, there is no way the Eagles are holding on to all these picks. I should have probably done a cap calculator just to get a general idea of what this would cost, but if you're talking about first after first after first with all these fifths now and some fourths later and thirds and just a bunch of comp picks in there to go get Abdul Carter, yeah, fuck yeah, to jump the Giants, fuck yeah. I mean, ultimately, I do think the Browns end up just taking Abdul Carter, because why wouldn't you do that right after you signed Myles Garrett to a large deal? Why wouldn't you do that? Just make the most impressive defense ever and wait for Deshaun Watson to come back. That's where I think they're going in terms of like a major way. I could absolutely see Howie Roseman surprising us and doing that. I have thought that pretty much since free agency has trotted along here with a lot of these one-year deals. Or maybe there's Grant Delpit, okay? Just keeping it simple. I don't know why you would trade CJ for Grant Delpit, but I don't think that he's valued very much, and I honestly believe he's a little underrated. PFF hates him, which makes me like him even more. Number 5, this actually comes with, I'm going to call it rumor. I wouldn't even call it information. The Saints have 8 signings. I think there's just an obvious link here also to Kellen Moore and Dallas Goedert. Again, I think that would be the safest NFC team right now because I don't believe the Saints are going to do much of anything. I am sure that Kellen Moore is going to get a ton of praise in his first year because Derek Carr can actually throw in a real offense with 34 tight ends. His friend Jack Stoll is there. They get along just fine. Brian Breesy, I never knew ever since college how to pronounce that correctly. He would be an interesting fit in this defense. Perfect guy to maybe rotate in with Jordan Davis. He's a 2-gapper. He's a pass rusher, kind of the other lighter version of Jordan Davis, more of a pass rusher, not much of a run stuffer, but again, I don't think anybody on the Saints was. Just an interesting fit in Vic's defense that I think would be relatively cheap because the Saints, they go marching in, hey, to cap hell, what? We've got a good history, what? Of taking their players, oh yeah, because they are stupid, yes. Speaking of stupid, let's go right to number 4. This is the highest signings on my list. They have 13 signings. They are going to sign Aaron Rodgers, and that is why they are number 4 on my list. I think Mike Tomlin is about to lose his mind. This is the year that we see it because anybody in their right mind would go, why would we do what the Jets just did? Why would we do that? And Mike Tomlin is going to convince himself that he can control this and the locker room, and he's been through worse. And look, if you've dealt with Antonio Brown, you have every right to say that. I think this is another team that's ripe for the pickings, and they're just we're waiting for this guy to make his decision. We want him to come here, and even if they don't, they're still screwed because they got Russell Wilson and a bunch of things to figure out. I'm going after Nate's brother, Nick Herbig. He's always reminded me of Reddick. He's shit in that defense. He doesn't work well in that defense. I hate how he's being used. He doesn't play enough. He's backing up Watt too. Again, they keep converting these outside linebackers to DNs, and I think that's a huge, huge issue. So that is one guy that I would absolutely take a shot on here. And going to number 3, which, thank you to Barney, I love you, son. He got very offended because, I wasn't giving enough credit in the Discord or something. But this actually changed my mind on literally everything. Number 3 on my list was the Jaguars. However, I'm telling you, it is officially moved to numero uno. There's just too many dog connections there, guys. Too many dog connections. They hired a coach before the GM. Jonathan Allen Hines is just hanging out. Walker is just hanging out. Both of them not signed long-term. Walker's seriously dirt cheap on his rookie deal still somehow. The band is obviously coming back together. And if that's the case and everybody's kind of whispering down the line, maybe 32 is the safety. Maybe it is. And then they just bring it all back together. And that's why CJ wasn't here, because they want the Georgia Bulldogs. Oh my God, seriously, what did Glenn Schimmon turn down? What did he turn down? Howie Roseman literally told him, I'm going to get every Georgia player you got. You might as well come here. No thanks, you idiot. Anyway, speaking of idiots, the Cons, great at wrestling, great at entertaining, horrible at managing football. So what do you think? I think that's definitely got to be on somebody's radar at this point. So now I'm going to go to my original number 1, which is now becoming number 2. At 6 signings, the Baltimore Ravens. The first name that you and I think right away is David Ojabo, because he sounds like an Eagle already. Guy that was injured. He should have been a superstar pass rusher coming out of college. He tears his ACL on his pro day. He takes a year to come back. He looks pretty good. He looks like he's in the rotation. He's got all of the right things. He just doesn't have the technique, and that first step burst just is gone or isn't there yet. And I feel like that's what the Ravens are trying to figure out. Super cheap, probably use one of those fifths. And again, the depth chart is just insanely big in Baltimore. And here's the thing about the Ravens organization. To me, they are slowly becoming the Steelers organization. You know, I think the Harbaughs, it's weird because Jim and John are kind of in two different spots. Like John is in the older school way and Jim is in the newer school way with his old principles in it. And I don't think like John has done that yet. You know, it's part of the reason why like all of these things are great. Everybody shits on Lamar. You know, I just don't think they have done enough to welcome in the new NFL as much as they have, if that makes sense. Like they are very analytical forward. They have always had a strong front office. It's just kind of like it's getting old. I don't think they have adapted enough, if that makes sense. I think Lamar keeps them more relevant than we believe. And the Eagles and the Ravens scouts see things very similarly. Very, very similarly. And if it's not a Jobo, there is, again, some other one-year guys that are making $13 million on that team that, okay, maybe it's both. You know, maybe it's Odafe Owen and a Jobo. Great. There you go. There's what is that? Like $15 million for two guys? Boom. There's some other dice rolls there for us. And my last team for you, which originally was my number 2, now my number 3, at 8 signings, the Seattle Seahawks. To me, the most likely tradable NFC team, just based on what they've done. And, you know, you can have, hey, they did the right thing with Gino or whatever you think. All right. I have seen Sam Darnold. This is going to be bad. But boy, Mafe is the exact MO one it was for Pete Carroll in 2022. And that, to me, is another perfect get that's just hanging around in, I think, like the $5 million range this year. Had a super productive player. I think could fit, you know, a bunch of different, like Josh Sweat-ish roles. I just think he's a very productive pass rusher. He's got great skill, and that might be a possibility where you go get him. Draymond is still out on the market, another ex-Seattle Seahawks. So, you know, maybe it's another 2-for-1 there, but that is more or less what I see. Do you think I missed any teams? Do you think I missed any opportunity? But that's it. I'm down to 11 teams, and I wonder if you can make it shrink even more. Could we cross even more off of that? I want to go back to the offensive line for a second, and this is the biggest thing that I missed when I was backing out and kind of looking at the depth chart overall. This is something that both you and I missed because we are celebrating the Super Bowl so hard. And this, to me, is going to have a lot of answers at training camp. This very thing, which I'm going to tell you about as soon as I say thank you to everyone who has ordered a hat so far. I am like unbelievably blown away by the support. Thank you guys. Thank you to Matthew C., Luke J. I'm not using your last names unless you want me to for privacy reasons. Rachel C., Brett M., Brian L., Dominique M., Josh P., Timothy L., and Matthew G. Unbelievable. Matthew G. bought 2 hats. I couldn't believe that. Thank you so much for doing that. Those are right down in the description. They'll be here on March 31st, and they are awesome, and I have some amazing news for everyone that buys a hat. I'm going to keep that a secret for now. I am not going to keep a secret, however. The offensive lineman that came from Australia looks a lot like Jordan Mailata, per his words, Laken Vakalahali. And I'm pretty sure I just pronounced that incorrectly, but I was watching this ESPN Australia clip from a while ago, and by happenstance, this kid was just playing basketball or something in Hawaii at a tournament, and, you know, a former junior rugby player shocking to hear this again, in Australia, born in New Zealand, all this other stuff. And that somehow family friends knew the Eagles are now the new international scout of the Eagles from last year and said, hey, let's bring this guy in. And sure enough, like the carbon copy from body print to looks to everything of Jordan Mailata. So they have drafted Jordan Mailata, and you and I just forgot about it again. And right now he's slated at left tackle right behind him. And yes, the Eagles just signed somebody. Who was that guy? I don't know. Probably no one's going to care, so I apologize. Cut to the future where he becomes an all-pro. But here is what I need you to look at training camp, because I believe we'll have an answer. Does he get cross-trained just like Jordan Mailata at right tackle? Because that is where I really believe he might be headed. If you forgot, Jordan Mailata started at left tackle his first year, then sat out, right, and moved to right tackle the next year, where I mistakenly, like a big dumb idiot, thought, man, I think this this experiment's over because he was really struggling with it. And little did I know he was dealing with a back injury that turned into surgery, where I thought Howie Roseman was just trying to be sly with the IR rule. And that was not the case. The next year, it looked like he'd been playing left tackle for like 50 billion years. He just wham, just came right out. And because of that, and again, I don't know how often this will happen, but clearly there's going to be a lot more eyes in Australia for the Philadelphia Eagles soon. And it's one of the reasons why they want to keep marketing to Australia through the NFL and the deal that they signed not too long ago. So I am just saying it is very possible that we have been talking, when are the Eagles going to select their right tackle? When are they going to get their right tackle? When are they going to find somebody to replace Lane Johnson? So Lane's got about 2 more years. And if Lakin ends up cross-training at right tackle during training camp this year, we might have our answer. Because as we get closer and closer to the draft, I'm just going to check off all of the different needs. Like, obviously, the guys that they are signing here is mainly just competition amongst themselves and the rookies that, the Eagles have kind of slotted for those spots right now. I don't even know if they do that. Do they do that this far ahead? One of these 5 guys. It's probably too sensitive information, but if somebody knows, let me know. I just think it might be a little interesting that they found Jordan Mailata at the right tackle position. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if they have 2 dudes from Australia anchoring and holding it down for Jalen Hurts? Incredible. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. Let a friend know. Subscribe, share, listen, and we'll all be watching the Birds together soon. I can't believe they started baseball season in Japan and then went back to spring training. What kind of cockamamie bullshit is this? Go Birds!